Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Drew Brown, and my wingman, my man, the number one guy I know, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, brother? Welcome to the Wingman Show, where we're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown. My wingman, my friend, the guy that I really think is the bomb, is my man, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, brother Paul?
Boy, Commander Drew, it's good to see you. I'm glad to be known as the bomb. Used to drop bombs, but it's better to be a bomb, I guess, in some cases. I'm doing fine today, and it's good to see you. We're going to have another great show.
Yes, we are, Dr. Paul. Yes, we are. Well, let's start off with that quote of the day. Measure your wealth not by the things money can buy, but by things no money can buy. That's by Kevin Kelly. Once again, measure your wealth not by the things money can buy, but by the things no money can buy. Now, I do have to admit, all this talking about money, Paul, you have to understand, you have to have some money to understand any of this, because if you're totally broke, none of this makes sense. None of it. But your real wealth is your health and your family and the people that love you. Don't you agree?
Right, I agree. When you said that, the first thing popped in my mind was health. Without you saying it, that's the very first thing, because everybody's been through something, and we've all been like little health compromised here and there. And to me, that's number one.
No doubt. When you get older, you realize that pain and aches and all these things, that's way more important than the color your beautiful new car is. I guarantee you.
Yeah, yeah. And as an older person, that's when you actually become more valuable, particularly to doctors. most most of the money is made in the latter stages of life. You become a cash cow in some cases.
No doubt. And then we're trying to show you also that you're responsible for your own health.
Yeah.
You can actually take care of yourself very well. All right, Dr. Paul, the name of our show today is George Foreman, Muhammad Ali, and me. And as you can see behind me, if you're watching on YouTube, there's my dad, Drew Bundini Brown Jr., and Muhammad Ali. My father trained Muhammad Ali. But we're talking about George Foreman today. And I had the pleasure of being with George when I was a young man at Muhammad Ali's training camp. And I first must say, he was the kindest, nicest guy that I ever met. And I met him way before he was champion, but he was one hell of a guy, Paul.
That's interesting. Can I ask you a quick question first before we get into that about the
Yes,
picture, about your picture behind you? That photo of your dad and Muhammad Ali with his hands raised is an iconic photo. There's a question I always had. He's got two fingers up. Do the two mean anything in particular? Is he
yes.
counting, or what does that mean? I don't know.
Great,
Nobody knows
Paul.
that. I'm probably the first one to ask that question.
Great question. Yes, it means a lot. Uh, the Muslims used to fire my dad because he wouldn't change his religion. Just let me tell you that. And every time they messed with him, Ali got his butt beat. So this fight that you're looking at is the third comeback. He lost to Leon Spinks because they didn't bring my dad in until 2 days before, and he got his butt kicked. Well, this is the third comeback, and this is in New Orleans. This right here is in the 15th round. And he yelled across the ring because Ali was winning at this point. He yelled across the ring, put his two fingers up, and said, "You may kick his ass, but you'll never beat the both of us."
Yeah, for those of you, want to make a little bit of money, you just heard a piece of history here. What you can do is bet someone, ask them, what do the two fingers mean? They'll guess something. They'll probably be wrong. They'll think it's like round two or something like that. And you can tell them what the right answer is, and they'll say, prove it before they pay you. And you can show them this tape.
That's right. Good one, Paul. Well, I'll tell you another one. If you're ever really broke and you're in a bar or something and you want to bet somebody something and make a couple dollars, this is a guaranteed. Ask somebody what year Muhammad Ali won the heavyweight championship gold medal in the Olympics. Do you know what year that was?
Yes, I do. I think it's 1960. Is that right?
That's the year, but he never won the heavyweight gold medal. He won the light heavyweight gold medal.
Okay, didn't know that.
So
Okay,
you can get a lunch right from
okay, okay. Like, cool.
So I want to talk a little bit more about George Foreman, though, because there's a couple of things. One thing that I was so impressed with, I remember later on when he was fighting, when he was much older, and he was starting to get much slower and he was getting beat sometimes. I remember that at the end of a fight, he lost the fight by points. And the announcer and the reporters all came up to him and said, "You were robbed. You were robbed. We all thought you won that fight." And he said, "Well, sometimes when I fought somebody, I didn't win and they gave it to me. So it's not a big deal. But for $29.95, you can get the George Foreman Grill. You'll get thin, you'll be in shape. Get that George Foreman Grill." And the guy said, "No, I understand that. But tell me, how do you feel about losing a fight that you really won?" He said, "Hey, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But for $29.95, Paul, it was the coolest thing I ever seen. He could care less about winning or losing. And like he said, there were some fights that he should have lost that he won. Don't you think that's cool?"
Yeah, well, he became a consummate pitchman, and I heard a story about the George Foreman Grill. Do you want to hear like a little quick?
Yeah, I want to hear. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I was used to be part of a marketing group that had an annual meeting, and one day they had the guy that came up with the whole idea. He gave a presentation. It was two guys out from Texas, and the George Foreman Grill, I think, was supposed to be a taco maker, a taco machine. And the thing, they were going out of business. They didn't know what to do. So they thought they'd get a celebrity spokesman. And from somebody else, they found he was available, and they convinced him to do the commercial for them, which they said he didn't want to do. He walked off the set a couple of times and said, "Oh, please, please, just finish." And he finished it, and the rest is history. He was a reluctant, almost billionaire from it.
Yeah, well, did you know that they sold over 100 million of those George Foreman grills?
Yeah, we got one of them.
I
We
think
got
we
one.
had two. We had the mini George Foreman and the big George Foreman. But this is something that I really want to say about George Foreman. I want to apologize from being from the camp of Muhammad Ali. When he fought Muhammad Ali in Zaire, Africa, called the Rumble in the Jungle, and let me give you a little side note. I went to all of Ali's fights. This fight here, I was in college at Southern University in New Orleans. My dad called me up, said, "Hey, do you want to go to Africa and see the fight?" I said, "Yes." His one question was, "But do you have school then?" I said, "Well, I have school, but Dad, we can take off." He said, "No, you can't take off." I said, "Well, let me give you my teacher's telephone number." He said, "Okay." He called my professor, Dr. Wilson. I'll never forget it. Dr. Wilson said, "Your son is such a good boy. He's really working hard in school. You should be so proud of him." And he said, "That's cool, but does he have school on those days?" And Dr. Wilson said, "Yes, but I'll send some work with him. He'll have a great time in Africa, great experience." He said, "Sorry, you can't go." That's how much my dad cared about school. But let's get back to that fight, Dr. Paul. This is important. Ali made a lot of fun of George Foreman. He was like the fall guy for this, and the Ali Boombaye. And George Foreman was never Uncle Tom. George Foreman was pure American. If you remember when he won the Olympics, he carried around that little American
Yes.
flag and bowed to each corner. It was wonderful. George
Over.
Foreman was sorry. Ali was just kidding. You would just happen to be the one that he was there with. And he was a salesman. He was like Barnum and Bailey. You know, whether you liked him or didn't like him, he could care less. He just wanted you to buy tickets to the fight.
Right. I'd heard that. Do you remember Howard Cosell?
Yes.
Announcer Howard Cosell, he was always interviewing him. He'd interview Ali, and it was like almost like they were opponents and enemies, but that was an act. Basically he said, our job was to have conflict because conflict sells. We need to put butts in the seats.
And Ali did that very, very well. All right, Paul, let's talk about some good news. Guess what Dr. Paul and Commander Drew just got? Brand spanking new Apple computers. We both got the new MacBook Pros. Tell me about your MacBook Pro and how cool it is, Paul.
Yeah, well, I've had it going. It'll be a week tomorrow. It is quicker. It's got the M4 chip. We were able to save a little bit of money because we trade in our old computers, which had value to it. So this basically my trade-in knocked off probably 30, 40% of a brand new deal, which made it, makes it, quite affordable. But it looks nice. Everything's more efficient. And we got the last one like 3 years ago. So,
Yeah, when we started the show,
and
Paul.
we started the show. Yeah. I've not moved mine till I took it to the Apple store last week. Sat there for 3 years. So it had max value. And this one is a little bit, it's better, it's quicker, everything improved. I'm getting used to it still, so I like it.
And I had to tell Paul this. It's not how much money you have, it's how much money you spend.
Right.
Because if you spend money, you get stuff. And so I'm glad we both got new computers. But what I really wanted to talk about was Apple's customer service. Once again, the premier customer service in the country, them and American Express, incredible hiring practices. I think they get their hiring practice from Chick-fil-A. Remember we talked about that? How
Yes.
Chick-fil-A is able to hire these good people.
Yeah, yeah, they're consistently good because even when I got my computer last week, I went right to the store. I didn't do it through the mail. I went to the store, took my time, and the guy helped me set some things up, and they were very patient. And I was doing some other stuff. Yeah, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? Oh yeah, I'll show you. Show me a bunch of stuff. I had my own little one-person class for like 6, 7 minutes, which is all I needed. Very nice.
Very nice. The reason we got those computers is because Dr. Paul and I both have college degrees. We both flew Navy jets and we both flew for FedEx in the airlines, but it was because of our education. Now, guess what, Dr. Paul? Harvard is now free. If your family makes under 200,000 a year, tuition is free for Harvard University. And if your family makes less than 100,000, it's totally free. They pay room and board and everything. And I just found out, Paul, MIT in Cambridge is doing the same. What do you think about going to Harvard for free?
Well, that's fantastic. Put in the application. In terms of those income limits, I guess that would cover most American families. 'Cause I think they want to make it more affordable for people, and that's a great thing. And they also didn't they have Harvard have the what's the second highest endowment? You told me that. University of Texas has the first, and they're the second with gazillions and gazillions of dollars. So they could actually send everybody for free for quite a while before they had a money problem.
They don't ever have to collect another dime for tuition. That's how much money they have, and their money makes money.
Yes.
But I will tell you this, how I knew that they were that wealthy is because my daughter Taryn and my son Drew, but they both played for Texas. But they had Taryn do a dinner for Texas for the sponsors and the supporters. And she told me it took an hour to read off the names of the $1 million donors. That's
Really?
how many there were. How about that?
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And you have to have good grades. Well, do you remember, Paul, when I said that everybody is a LeBron James in something? Maybe not basketball, but everybody has a skill. Everybody has something special in them. Well, what if I told you I found another LeBron, but his name is Montavious Presley from Douglas County, Georgia? He went to Douglas County High School. This guy has 61 schools, colleges accepted him, and has over $1 million in scholarships. This kid is the LeBron that I was talking about. Everybody can do it, but this kid busted his ass in school, and look where he's going to go. And he's applied. He wants to be a doctor. Did you read about him?
Yeah, I did see about him. He's a interesting young man. There's a picture. I think we'll show a picture of him and his mom. I assume he's got a lot of choices. It's good to have choices, but he probably didn't just start doing this the first day, don't you think? Probably been doing this all his life, his whole school career, if we can call it that.
Yes, and this is important, Paul. In the article, which I love, the reason he wanted to go to college is because he had families that went to HBCUs. And he said that all his family, they always talked about how much fun they had in college, how much they learned in college, and what a great experience it was. So he heard that growing up all this time. So just like me, I never thought I couldn't go to college.
You know? Well, you're the one of the main ones I can remember always talk about how much fun you had. You and our good wingman friend Keith Miller always talked about your enjoyment at your HBCUs.
Well, you know that I went to an HBCU because the first school I went to, New Mexico State University, was a big, huge Division I school, and I tried to play ball for them. But the first class I had, they had 300 people in this auditorium, and I couldn't understand how they take attendance. And the guy next to me said, they don't take attendance. They could care less if you're here. Well, it was the most fun year that I ever had, except I flunked out of school. I had a 1.6 grade point average. I went back to Brooklyn. I entered Kingsborough Community College, and I just brought him my high school transcripts and tell him I took a year off. But I brought him my high school transcripts, and I had so much fun at New Mexico State. I realized that in order to go to college and not have anybody bother you, you have to do your studies. And from then on, I graduated with a 3.0 cum laude, I believe it is. But then I went on for a scholarship to Southern University in New Orleans. But did I have fun in college in New Orleans? What can I say?
Yeah, I guess it's a cautionary tale. You can have fun, but don't have too much fun.
100%. 100%. And I'm glad I learned it the hard way, but at least I learned it. Well, everybody out there, thank you so much for supporting the Wingman Show. We truly do appreciate it. We appreciate you watching us on YouTube, listening to us on Apple Podcasts, watching our shorts on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you so much. iHeartRadio, thank you so much for supporting us. We truly do appreciate it. And we have a website that is wingmanshow.com, wingmanshow.com. And on that website, every week we have a newsletter. And this week's newsletter, believe it or not, is how to choose a computer that fits you, because everybody has different needs. But I think it's a great newsletter. And if you check out the pictures behind us, you see I got my dad and Ali behind me, but behind Paul, he has the famous Blue Angels, but they're in A4s, if you notice, which was a jet that Dr. Paul and I both flew. Paul, how come they're flying A4s? I thought they were flying F4s back then.
Well, they were flying F4s for a while. Both the Blue Angels and Thunderbirds flew F4s, but do you remember something called the energy crisis?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. That was in like 1973. There was actually an Arab oil embargo, and they stopped sending oil to the US. So, there were long gas lines, fuel was in short supply. So, because the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels are kind of like the recruiting arm of their respective services, they wanted to make a good example. So instead of having the gas guzzling F4 and working on it, which is tough, they got smaller airplanes. So as not to get that criticism. That's the reason they switched. And that stayed until in the 80s after the stuff with Iran in 79. In the 80s, they moved up to more powerful airplanes. The F-18 came on board after that. But it's pretty much by the energy crisis. It was kind of a PR move primarily.
That's pretty cool. And that's a great story to know why they changed airplanes. And you know what I used to tell people when they came up to me and says, "Are you a Blue Angel?" Because I used to speak in that blue flight suit. "Are you a Blue Angel?" And I said, "No, but I do everything that the Blue Angels do, except my audiences don't clap."
That's true. Your audiences with most of the
Get
water.
what I'm saying? Anyway, on that website that we have, wingmanshow.com, we have something called the frequent flow line. So when you go to the website, you can actually write Dr. Paul and myself a letter. And I have a letter from this week. It's a young man he's a 15-year-old young man from Youngstown, Ohio. And he writes, "Why do jets leave a trail of smoke when they are high up in the sky? You guys are real badasses. Thanks." Paul, why don't you take that one?
Sure, yeah, they call those contrails, condensation trails. And it's not smoke. You don't really want smoke. You got smoke, you got fire. You don't want smoke. It looks like smoke, it's the same color, but it's a simple explanation. It's like H2O is water, and that's what you're looking at. It's the hydrogen that's part of the jet fuel exhaust mixing with some of the soot, and then the low pressure oxygen that's up in the atmosphere. And that's making the water. So what you're looking at is like ice crystals, really.
That's
Those
right.
ice crystals are just trail. Sometimes they're just like just a little bit behind it, and sometimes they go dozens of miles. I saw one yesterday. It was like 20, like 50 miles long, and I've seen them in the air, and they're cool. They come and they go, and it all depends on the atmosphere and the temperature and the components needed to make visible water is cooled down. That's my explanation.
They're not smoke, they're ice. How
Yeah.
about that? Well, that brings me to a Wingman PSA. From the 11 facts in life, still on the fact number 6, which is good will overcome evil, is one of the deadly sins, and it's called greed. Greed is the curse of insatiability. That means you're impossible to satisfy. Greed, the curse of insatiability, impossible to satisfy. What a horrible, horrible thing to have, to never be able to be satisfied. It's like greed. You know that Bernie Madoff, who stole $55 billion from his friends, why did he go to work the next day to steal 56? That's greed. What could he have done with 56 billion he couldn't have done with 55, because it had nothing to do with money anymore. It was more or less power, and power is the strongest drug in the world. What do you think about that, Paul?
Yeah, well, Madoff with the money and hurt a lot of people, died in prison, as I recall. Uh, a very cautionary tale. But the thing is that greed, makes you lose all your morals. He stole from his friends. He stole from everybody. So stole from some very, very smart people.
Yes. And you know how they got him, Paul? You know how he really got him? He wouldn't let you invest with him. It was a no always. So when you tell somebody no, then they really want to invest with him. And people were begging to invest with him because people were making so much money, it looked like.
Yeah.
So it was really the greed of all the buyers that made this Ponzi scheme work. You know how, Paul, they say that money is evil?
Yeah,
Money's not evil. The love of money is evil.
right.
All right, let's do the gouge. Let me give you a little gouge. You know what gouge is in the Navy, that shit you need to know, but nobody tells you. How about this gouge? Dr. Paul, tell me 3 things, since you've been an airline pilot and a Navy jet pilot, and we've been in the air most of our lives. Tell me 3 things that you don't eat on an airplane and you shouldn't eat on an airplane.
Well, I'm told Bloody Mary, which I don't drink, so okay, there's no chance of that. Probably anything with water, coffee, tea, or milk. Well, coffee or tea. And what else? The third one was anything that produces a lot of gas. Now, that was the most obvious one.
Oh, no doubt about it. And the reason that Bloody Mary was spoken about was the sodium in it. The sodium is not good when you're flying. And obviously, the water, let me tell you about this water. The water comes from the airplane water tanks. And when Paul and I used to fly, even in the new 777, we just wouldn't drink that water that came out of the faucet. Not at all. Would you, Paul?
No, no, it was good for washing hands, and for me, that was it. Everything else was bottled water. The water comes from the water tanks that are stored in the airplane, and they don't clean those too much.
No. And didn't they say they did a test on them? And like 20% of them had E. coli in the tanks.
Yeah, yeah. And when at our old company, when they tested them, when someone brought it up the first time, they found a lot more than that in them. That's true.
Well, those are the 3 things when you go on an airplane, and that means the ice also. And they also said if they come around with a pitcher of water, that's from the tanks. That's not bottled water. So if I were you, I'd stick with the bottled water or and don't drink sodas. I can't say that, but I'd stick with the bottled water and seltzer. All right, Paul, you know, the name of our show is called The Wingman Show. And the reason for that is that we always honor people who help other people. We always honor people who may have not had all the benefits in the world, but come up and become successful. Paul, you have a great wing person for us today.
Yes, Commander Drew, I have one. And you're a basketball fan, aren't you?
I'm a basketball player, went to college on a
Okay.
basketball scholarship,
Yeah.
actually played for the Globetrotters, Paul,
That's right. That's right. For a
for
while.
one day.
Yeah. And that's it's kind of a silly question given the shirt that you're wearing with New York Knicks in blue, but I thought I'd just be kind of funny. Yeah, you're into basketball. Well, you relate to this. This is a story of resilience, perseverance, and inspiration. And it's a young lady named Bailey Cinnamon Daniel out of Cambridge, Massachusetts. At least that's what the story is. And this is a young lady who was born with a right arm that was much, much smaller than her other arm. In fact, it was too small to even be of use. There's medical terms for it, and it's a very complicated situation. But her right arm was just not fully developed. Would you believe that she was actually a basketball player?
In college,
She played on her high school team for a period of time, but was later cut. But that wasn't enough. So she went back and she went to college and she made her basketball team in college. She played for Leslie University. And not long ago, she made history. She is the first player, I guess first female player with one arm to make a basket, a long range basket. Got the video. It's not a 3-pointer. She's just inside the 3-point line. But with one hand, she's able to do that. She's congratulated by her teammates. And she scores, now and then. But apparently that long shot was considered a miracle. And if you look at her, she's someone who's a very, very confident and determined young lady who's going to go far in life. But it shows that even with what a physical disability, it doesn't necessarily limit you depending on the strength of your character and the strength of your heart.
that's right, Paul. And the one thing she had was perseverance and those two curse words that I used to tell in school. It's
Uh-oh.
called hard work. When you work hard at something, you usually pays off. But guess where she got her inspiration from? From this young man named Hansel Emmanuel. And you and I did a story on him a long time ago. And
Yes.
he's now playing ball at Northwestern State. He was a young man from the Dominican Republic. His father was a professional basketball player from the Dominican Republic, and he loved basketball. But when he was 6 years old, they were playing around some concrete, and an entire wall fell on his arm. And the only way they could save him was to amputate his arm. Well, when you look at his videos, he's trying to go pro. This boy can play. Did you see some of that?
I saw somebody, he played, played better than us on our best days. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he hit it all. He really has it all.
Yeah, he's a great basketball player, and there are a lot of people out there who have disabilities, but they work hard and they overcome them. And there's also a lot of people out there with no disabilities. They don't work hard and they don't really ever become anything. So I would like to let everybody know who can hear my voice, whatever's out there that you think is beautiful, whatever's out there that you think is important, and especially whatever makes you happy, may you have that today and forever. I pray for peace.
I pray for peace, Commander Drew. It's good seeing you again. We appreciate all those who listen, like, and share our message. Please give us a thumbs up on YouTube or some good comment if you're listening to us anywhere or watching us. It helps the algorithm. We'd like you to subscribe and get an alert every time we put out a new episode. We do thank you for your support.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all men and women.